Yes. Insurance. Spiritual insurance, where the Lord assures us, if you think of me at the time of death, guarantee you'll come back to me. You don't have to wait, you'll come back to me right away. But if you think about other things at the time of death, then as per your desires, those things will be fulfilled. So today's chapter is titled Raja Vidya Raja Guhya Yoga. Raja Vidya, meaning the king of all knowledge. Raja Guhya. Guhya means secret. Guhya means secret. This knowledge that Krishna is about to speak in chapter 9 is considered the king of knowledge that is most confidential. Because of this confidentiality, the single word summary for today's chapter is password. What is the password that allows us to enter the spiritual world? What do you think the answer is? What is the password to enter the spiritual world?
Krishna. Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Practice and Vairagya, Mataji.
Dhyana.
Dhyana.
Bhakti.
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 Yes, the answer
Surrender.
is Bhakti. So the password to enter the spiritual world is Bhakti. Bhakti is a loving exchange between the Lord and his devotees. And because of that reciprocation, and the more you practice Bhakti, the more you want to serve Krishna. And through that process, you enter the spiritual world. So the single word summary for today's chapter is password, and the password is Bhakti. So let us see. I want to offer my humble obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So today, again, Krishna will talk about the importance of hearing. Everything begins with hearing and divine knowledge. Krishna talks about the inconceivable relationship between the devotee and the Lord, and why that is the most superior kind of relationship. Krishna comes back to the topic of not worshipping him, and he concludes this chapter by talking again about the glories of Bhakti. So Bhakti is so important, even in Krishna's mind. So the acronym for today is KING, the king of knowledge, the most confidential knowledge, the inconceivable relationship between the Lord and his devotees, the outcome and process of non-worship, and then the glories of Bhakti. So Krishna glorifies his devotees, those who practice pure Bhakti, from shlokas 26 to 34. So there are degrees of confidential knowledge. The first confidential knowledge that Krishna reveals is actually in chapter 2, where he talks about the difference between the body and the soul. That the body is temporary, the soul is eternal. And therefore, decisions that we make, although we are in this world, we are forced to make decisions based on the body, but as much as possible, the prioritization should be to make decisions based on the eternal platform, which is the Nitya Dharma. Which, if you make your decisions based on Nitya Dharma, then automatically your Swadharma should be taken care of, because you have the right perspective. Then the more confidential knowledge is this knowledge of devotional service. The sambandha that is always there between Krishna, between Paramatma and Jivatma. It is just that we have forgotten the sambandha because we've taken birth so many times. But the soul is longing and yearning to be back with Krishna. But because the consciousness has been contaminated over many, many births, the consciousness forgets you, forces you to forget your relationship with Krishna. So Prabhupada very nicely explains, all of us are eternally related to Krishna. It's just that we have forgotten. And this whole process of Bhakti Yoga, constructed and set up under the aegis of ISKCON, is to help the Jivatmas revive their relationship with Krishna, to wake them up out of that amnesia that they are in, and tell them, hey, you actually belong to Krishna. So this is that sambandha, to re-establish, not to establish because it always existed, to re-establish and reconnect the Jivatmas with Krishna is the primary mission of ISKCON. And Prabhupada very nicely says, that is the greatest social service one can ever do. Any other social service that one does is limited to the body. The best way to please Krishna is to bring others and connect them to Krishna, because you get rewarded for that by Krishna. Krishna himself says that. Therefore, ISKCON is also a preaching movement. Outside of being a prasadam movement, everybody knows ISKCON for its prasadam also. So this is our entire objective. Why do we conduct so many Bhagavad Gita classes? For free. Doing all of this costs the temple a lot of money. You know, even to do this, there's so much planning, there is marketing, there is analysis of data, everything we do, just like as if we were in the corporate world. As devotees, we don't take it easy and say, we'll just advertise, we'll see whoever comes, comes. Whoever takes advantage, takes advantage. No, we are very anxious. We are very anxious to make sure people come, people attend all 18-day sessions, they ask questions, they get a better understanding. After all these sessions are over, we do deep analysis, who came, who left, why they left. We may call people and ask them, why did you drop out in between? There is so much work behind the scenes to bring you these classes. All volunteer based. Most of us taking classes are working full time. Because we understand how critical and urgent it is to connect the Jivatmas back to Krishna. That's the only thing that matters. Everything else is temporary. So the most confidential aspect of this knowledge is pure devotional service. The dealings of Krishna and his interactions with his pure devotees. You know, all of the leelas that happen in Vrindavan are between Krishna and his pure devotees, the Gopas, the Gopis, his parents. So this is the most confidential aspect. When you have pure love for Krishna, how you enjoy yourself with Krishna, that is the most confidential knowledge. Although Krishna is not going to talk about gopis and all of that here, right? He's strictly going to talk about his pure devotees. Then Krishna says, you need 2 qualifications to understand this most confidential knowledge. First, he'll repeat this again. He has said this earlier. You should not be envious of Krishna. Anusuyava, he says. The only person who can begin to accept this knowledge and understand this knowledge is those who are non-envious of him. Second thing, we come back to faith, Shraddha. If you don't have faith, you cannot make progress. You know, every day we make so many plans. like as if we are guaranteed to wake up tomorrow. That much faith we have in ourselves that we are going to wake up tomorrow. Even if we had that iota of faith in Krishna, we can go back to Golok Vrindavan in this life. So Krishna is laying down the criteria to come back to him or to receive and understand this knowledge, which is non-envy and faith, anusuyava and shraddha. And then what are the characteristics of this king of knowledge? Why is this chapter titled Raja Vidya Raja Guhya? Raja Vidya is the king of all knowledge, the dealings of the pure devotees with Lord Krishna. Raja Guhyam, this is the most confidential of the interactions between the Lord. Remember, I said yesterday, Krishna doesn't give bhakti very easily. He is a little stingy when it comes to that. He calculates a lot to see before he gives you bhakti. But if Radharani asks him and introduces you to him, then he is compelled. He doesn't reject. On your own, if you approach Krishna, he's very tough. But if a devotee approaches Krishna and say, Krishna, please accept this person as your devotee. They are getting started on their journey. Then he acquiesces right away. He doesn't question, he doesn't calculate, nothing. Why? Because his devotee has told him, please accept this person. That's why in the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we cry out to Radharani first. We're telling her, please engage us somehow or the other in the service of your Lord Krishna. And if she does that, then we are very pleased and Krishna is already also pleased. Pavitram Uttamam. Krishna himself says, this knowledge that I'm about to reveal to you is the purest knowledge. Uttamam, it is topmost, transcendental. Pratyakshabagamam dharmyam, it is the perfection of all religions. Susukham, just hearing about this can bring one great joy. Avyayam, this knowledge is eternal, it's everlasting. So this is the shloka. Actually, let's read the shloka. It's a very nice shloka, 9.2. I can pull it up here, right? Instead of the book. Where Lord Krishna talks about this. Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam Pavitram Midamuttamam Pratyakshabagamam Dharmyam Susukham Kartum Avyayam. Krishna is telling Arjuna, this knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. So this bhakti yoga brings a lot of joy into our hearts. And when we practice it, we experience a great deal of bliss. So what is this inconceivable relationship between matter, Krishna, and the Jivatmas? Maya dhyakshena prakritihi suyate sacharacharam hetunanena kaunteya jagat viparivartate. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction. So Krishna is making it crystal clear that Durga Devi performs her duties and responsibilities as per the instructions of Lord Krishna. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So again, a repetition of what Krishna has already spoken about in chapter 8. Then Krishna talks about those who deride him. Again, he uses very harsh words. Moodha, he says. Avajananti mam moodha manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Krishna says, there are some people on this planet who will think that Krishna was just an ordinary man with extraordinary capabilities. They will think society is foolishly worshipping him as God. So Krishna himself is saying, fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that being. So Krishna already knows that there are people who will reject him as God. And what does he call them? Fools. Avajananti mam moodha. They don't know that I am God. What happens to those who reject God? Moghasha moga karmano moga jnana vichetasah rakshasi mashurim chaiva prakritim mohinim shritah. Krishna is saying, those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demonic and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. So he is reiterating what he has already stated before. Those who don't believe in him, he calls them demons, atheistic. In that deluded condition, whatever hopes and aspirations that they have, whatever knowledge that they acquire, whatever accomplishments that they may have, ultimately get defeated. Defeated means what here? It just means that they have to take birth again and again and again. They are frustrated in their efforts. So they have to experience death and start all over again. This is what happens to those who don't believe in God. And then Krishna talks about who is a mahatma. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashritaah bhajantyananya manaso gyatva bhutadim avyayam. O son of Partha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. So the pure devotees like Narada Muni, they're always chanting the glories of the Lord. They're always engaged in devotional service. And when they do this, what is the Lord saying? They are under the protection of divine nature. Who is this divine nature? Does anybody know? Daivim prakritim ashritaah. Who represents this divine nature?
Brahman.
Krishna.
No. Amol Prabhu, what did you say?
Brahman.
No.
Artha Brahma.
No.
Adibhuta.
We come under the protection of
Krishna.
Yoga Maya. There are two Maya Devis. They all originate from Krishna only. Mahamaya is represented by Durga Devi. And if you turn your face towards Maya Devi, that means you have turned your back to Krishna. and you're associating with Maya Devi and you come under her influence because of the three gunas. But if you take shelter of Krishna, you come under the control of Yoga Maya, represented by Subhadra Devi. So we automatically come under the Lord's protection because Yoga Maya will intervene and make changes in our life, knowing that we are devotees of her dear Lord Krishna. So Mahamaya exists in the material cosmos. Yoga Maya is in the spiritual world. So if we take the shelter of Yoga Maya, represented, if we take the shelter of Krishna, we come directly under the protection of Krishna's divine nature, represented by Yoga Maya. So Krishna is saying, Daivim Prakritim Ashritaha. We come under the protection of Yoga Maya. You know, Yoga Maya is the one who writes all the scripts, or she's like the director enabling Krishna to perform all his leelas. She makes all the arrangements so that the Lord can enjoy himself. She is Yoga Maya. So the next question is, how do we recognize a Mahatma? Who is a Mahatma? What are the symptoms? What are the qualities that they have? Satatam kirtayanto mam yadantascha dridavratah namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Krishna says, his pure devotees, what are they doing? Always chanting my glories. Satatam, never ending. Always. Satatam means always. Kirtayanto mam. Always they're glorifying the Lord. Always they have the names of the Lord on their lips. Always chanting my glories, and then endeavoring with great determination. They don't give up. Dridavratah. Bowing down before me. These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. Namasyantas means bowing down. Mam bhaktya, they are my devotees. Nitya yukta, perpetually they are worshipping me. So this is how we can recognize who is a Mahatma, and this is how you can also figure out who to accept as a guru. Such a pure devotee, an acharya, you can accept as a guru. Somebody who's always talking about Krishna, somebody is always telling you bow down to Krishna, chant his holy names, take his shelter, seek his protection, offer some seva to him. Such a person is a Mahatma. To your external eyes, they may be doing things that may appear imperfect. But if they are saying, repeating what Krishna has already said, then without any hesitation, you can accept them as your guru. What are the activities of a Mahatma? Again, Krishna is saying, which is what we read just now. Kirtaniya, always chanting. Dridavrata, with a fixed vow, determination. Namasyanta, offering obeisances. Nitya yukta, always engaged. Don't give up. They do not give up. They don't like their devotional services to be interrupted. They may have a whole lot of other responsibilities, but they will keep coming back to Krishna, right? We discussed there are certain periods of time during the day you will be busy with your work. How, when you have some free time, can you think about Krishna? Can we not? We can chant one round, we can read the 1 or 2 shlokas in the Bhagavad Gita. This is how you keep bringing your mind back to Krishna. This is the process of purification. And for us, this is why our day begins with Krishna. I was just mentioning in a slightly earlier class this morning that how Krishna sequences everything so perfectly. First, he tells Arjuna, work, because all of us have to work. Then he tells Arjuna, If you want to work for an outcome, then think about that outcome and put in your effort. Then he tells Arjuna, work with devotion, which is you work, but think of me when you're working. And then he flips it later on. He says, think of me and then work. So when he says, think of me and then work, that means you've arrived at Bhakti Yoga. Until then, Krishna is gradually holding Arjuna's hands and leading him up higher and higher and higher and higher. First he says work, because none of us have a choice, we have to work. Then he says, if you are interested in an outcome, then work hard towards that outcome. Then he says, well, if you want to work towards an outcome, but keeping me in mind, then you work with devotion. You be attached to the duty, don't worry about the results. I'll take care of it. He says, work and think of me while you're working. Then he flips it. He says, think of me first and then work. Which is why we want to begin our day with the final instruction of Krishna, where he says, think of me and then begin your day. And Krishna talks about those who worship him by worshipping the demigods. Ultimately, they are all worshipping him, but indirectly. Indirectly. So some of them worship his universal form. Some of them worship Brahman within, or they are trying to achieve Brahman. Some of them worship many, many demigods. Krishna ends up saying, actually, you may be worshipping the demigods, but since I'm the one who gives them the power and authority, indirectly you're worshipping me, it's okay. But that's not the perfect stage of bhakti. So what is the result? We come back again to the results for those who accept Krishna and reject Krishna. Again in this chapter. Yanti deva vrata devan pitran yanti pitrivrataha bhutani yanti bhutejya yanti mam yajinopi mam. Krishna says, those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings, and those who worship me will live with me. You know, some of us are very, very attached to our loved ones who have left us. And sometimes we pray to them. So Krishna is saying, if you're going to worship your ancestors, you're going to go back to the place where the ancestors are until they take their next body. So if you worship the demigods, your destination will be the demigods, where the demigods live, Indraloka. But if you worship lower, subtler forms like ghosts and spirits, then you don't have a choice but to be with them. And then he says, but if you worship me, you will come back to me. You will be living with me. You don't have to worry about any of the other things. So again, he's talking about destinations being different based on who you are worshiping. Or results rather. The outcome is different based on who you worship. So while we said it is all a ladder, you're all progressing upwards. But within that rung, the outcome is different. So the difference, again, Krishna comes back to the difference between those who worship demigods and those who worship him. What is our motive to worshipping Krishna? Love and servitude. We want to serve him, we want to love him. We want to please Krishna. That's it. Yes, we may have material desires, we may be distressed, all of that is okay. But at least you're worshipping Krishna. And over a period of time, you will develop that love and service attitude. Whereas if you are worshipping the demigods, you want specific material desires, whatever that material desire is. What is the outcome based on your motive? If your motive is just love and service, then Krishna will give you what is good for you, like a good parent. Whereas we discussed yesterday and day before yesterday, that demigods are like shopkeepers. They will sell you whatever they have. They don't care. Whatever you want, they'll give you. And like we said, no after sales service. You cannot call customer service after that and say it didn't work out for me. Why did you do this? Doesn't matter. They just sell you the goods. Terms and conditions apply as it is. You accept whatever they give as it is. So it's very risky to worship the demigods, because whatever you get may end up creating more problems for you. Whereas when you worship Krishna, it's not like that. He will only give you what you actually need, like a good parent. And the benefit, of course, ultimately is that by worshipping Krishna, we are under his shelter. By worshipping the demigods, whatever results that we get is temporary. So even if we go to Krishna and ask for material desires, that is better than going to demigods and asking for material desires. That's what Krishna is saying. Because you are under the protection of Krishna. This is the difference between the worship of demigods and the worship of Krishna. Again, there is nothing wrong in worshipping the demigods. If you have material desires, that's the right thing to do. But now that you know that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and even if you have material desires, why not go to Krishna himself? But we should think like Dhruva Maharaj. I don't want to worship and get glass pieces. I want the actual diamond. The actual diamond is love for Krishna. Everything else is like broken glass pieces that are very shiny and very attractive. So just like an organization has many departments, our government has many ministries, similarly, each of the demigod holds a particular portfolio. So devotees have very nicely given some examples of portfolio. Electricity, Surya; construction, Brahma; power, Agni; water is Varuna; defense is Kartikeya; home life, Durga Devi; like this, education, Saraswati; HR head, who's the most important person for us, Yamaraj. You know, they say moon influences your moods and your mental health. If you have grievances, you want obstacles to be removed on the material journey, you worship Ganesha. Like this, there are n number of departments and portfolios. So like this, there are 33 crore demigods managing this entire cosmos. Some of them are pure devotees, some of them are mixed devotees. Mixed devotees means they still have material desires. Our current Brahma, who's overseeing our particular Brahmanda, is considered to be a pure devotee of the Lord. So which is at the time of final annihilation, he will go back to the spiritual world. Whereas those Brahmas who have material desires, they have to keep taking birth. So even among the Devatas, there are pure devotees. So sometimes Krishna may call them up and say, can you take on this job? And they will say, yes, whatever makes you happy, Krishna. You know, sometimes your boss calls you and gives you extra responsibilities. And if you say yes, how happy your boss is. Because he knows he has found a reliable partner, a reliable employee. So like that, sometimes Krishna calls on his pure devotees to play certain roles, and they will, out of love for him, out of devotion for him. So how does Krishna reciprocate with Mahatmas? Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janah paryupashate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Very important shloka for us. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, Ananyas, nothing else. Chintayanto mam, you're always thinking about me and nobody else. Krishna is seeking exclusivity in your devotion. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So this is one more insurance policy. Krishna says, if you are exclusively his devotee and you're always chanting his names, you're trying your best to listen to Harikatha, What is he saying? To them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. Very important shloka for us to remember. So we may think we are so imperfect while performing our devotional service. It doesn't matter. Krishna will personally try and help you to perfect your devotional service. And then Krishna concludes this chapter by talking about Bhakti again, the glories of devotional service. The glories of devotional service. Bhakti is very simple. What is Krishna asking for? Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktya upahritam ashnami prayatatmanah. Krishna is telling, if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a fruit, a flower or water, I will accept it. Krishna does not need your leaf, he does not need your flower, he does not need your fruit or your water because everything belongs to him. He is the proprietor. If he already owns everything, what's the necessity for us to offer it to him? To demonstrate our love. So Krishna says, if you offer any of this with love and devotion to me, he will accept it. Which means the reverse is true. You can offer all kinds of wealth to Krishna, but if there is no love in your heart for Krishna, Krishna is not going to accept it. Prabhupada uses a wonderful analogy. He says, let's say a father has bought, let's say a bag of chocolates for the child. And he opens it and offers it to his child, the entire bag. And if the child takes a chocolate and gives it to the father first, how happy will that father be? He'll be amazed that the child thought of him first before consuming the chocolate himself. Similarly, the Lord is extremely pleased with us. He has anyway supplied us with everything. It's his property. We didn't do anything special here. But whatever we use of his property, if we give it to him first, then he is so pleased with your service. It simply tells him, I am thinking of you first. You take it first. You are the head of the household. I will take it after you take it. So this is the mood of a bhakta, always thinking, everything has been supplied by the Lord. Let me offer it to him first and then I will start using it. With love and devotion, of course. So Krishna is purchasing your love and devotion. The rest of the stuff doesn't matter. The material things that you're offering to him, it doesn't matter. He already has it all. He is actually purchasing your love and devotion. And this way, you can also purchase Krishna. Through your love and devotion, you can purchase Krishna. That's what the acharyas say. He comes under the control of his pure devotees because he doesn't know what to do. They are always thinking about him. They're always falling down at his lotus feet and composing great poems, glorifying him. It's like, how much are you going to worship me? I don't know what to do. Fine, I give up. I surrender to you. Of course, surrender in a different way. It's just Krishna's way of enjoying himself with his pure devotees. So coming back to Nishkama Karma Yoga, which is performing devotional service and performing your duty and not worrying about the results or offering the results in the service of Krishna. In essence, work is needed even for bodily maintenance. So all of our religious duties, we do it only to please Krishna. We should only honor prasadam every day. Whatever charity that we do, we should do it in the service of Krishna, which means propagating Krishna consciousness, which means bringing more jivatmas and reconnecting them with Krishna. That is the highest form of social welfare activity one can take up. That is the highest form of charity. Whether it is in the form of a prasadam that is distributed to anybody and everybody, or conducting classes, or engaging people in seva in the temple. It doesn't matter. We should use our funds in this way to propagate Krishna consciousness, and Krishna becomes extremely pleased with you. So this is how we should make charitable donations in connection with Krishna, always trying to connect people back to Krishna. And what is the austerity we need to perform? We don't have to perform any tapas. We just need to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If we can do this repeatedly throughout the day, your life will be sublime. Your life will be completely transformed. We don't worry about trying to control our material desires. Just by the process of chanting itself, we come to the correct platform. And then Krishna talks about the ultimate result. The result of performing Nishkama Karma Yoga in relationship with Krishna is freedom. Freedom that comes by connecting our activities with the Lord, which is freedom that comes by following the injunctions, the scriptures, the do's and the don'ts. Niyam and yam. What you should do and what you should not do. In this way, you will be freed from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. So Krishna is saying, if you perform work with devotion as a sacrifice to me and offer the results in my service, then you will be practicing what is called a karma. No more karmic influences for you. That tap that we talked about stops immediately. With your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. So we should be attached to Krishna through the thread of devotional service like the sky tube. We may not be able to see the thread, but the thread is necessary for that kite to fly up in the sky. And if we get disconnected from Krishna, finished, all our efforts of going back to Krishna in this life may be difficult. We may have to come back and perfect it another time. Then Krishna makes a very important statement. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. He said this first. I envy no one. I am not partial to anyone. I am equal to all. Whether you're his devotee or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Krishna is saying, I am equal to all. I am not partial to anyone. And then he includes the word but. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. So the bond of friendship is established when you begin practicing Bhakti Yoga. So first Krishna says, I'm not partial, I'm equal to everybody, I don't envy any, I don't want any harm to come to anybody. I'm the father of everybody. Why would I want my own children to be tortured? But those who are always serving me with devotion, Krishna says, they make me their friend. I'm also their friend and they are also my friend. That's what Krishna says. So which means Krishna is identifying that if you take his shelter and if you become his friend, then he in turn reciprocates with you. He too becomes your friend. In this relation, I have a nice pastime to talk about. We will go back to Treta Yuga and the pastime of Lord Ram. After Lord Ram was exiled, they leave Ayodhya and they enter into the forest. But then they had to cross a river to get into the forest. And they were thinking, who was there? Of course, Lord Ram, Lord Lakshman, and Sita Devi were there. They were thinking, how are we going to cross this river? And then a boatman arrives there. And the boatman, when Lord Ram sees the boatman, he asks the boatman, can you take us to the other side? And of course, the boatman says, definitely, certainly I will. And so Lord Ram, Lord Lakshman, and Sita Devi board the boat, and the boatman takes them to the other side. Now, the Lord says, you've performed such nice service to me by taking me over to the other side. I want to give you something in return for your service. But then Lord Ram doesn't have anything on him to give as a reward to the boatman. And he looks at Sita Devi, and Sita Devi is wearing a chain around her neck. And he looks at her and he says, I would like to offer that to the boatman. Can you give it to me? And Sita Devi begins to take her necklace out. Whatever it was, whatever she was wearing, she begins to take it out and give it to Lord Ram. And at that time, the boatman protests. He says, no, I cannot take anything from you. But then Lord Ram says, I insist, you have to take something from me. You've done nice service. We needed to cross the river. We were wondering how we would do it, and you came at the right time. You offered us nice service, and we want to reward you for what you have done. And the boatman very nicely says, my dear Lord Ram, we have an agreement in this area that we live in with all the boatmen, that every boatman gives another boatman a ride for free. That's the payment. And Ram says, every boatman gives another boatman a ride for free. He says, I am not a boatman. I am the son of Dasarath. I am not a boatman. To which the boatman says, my dear Lord Ram, I am a very small boatman. I take a few people from this side to the other side. But my dear Lord Ram, you are the greatest boatman because you have the power to help the Jivatmas cross over to the other side into the spiritual world. So then the boatman says, do we have an agreement? You are also a boatman because you help the Jivatmas cross over this miseries of this material world and get to the spiritual world. And he's asking Lord Ram, can that be our agreement? And can that be my payment for giving you a ride onto the other side? So a simple boatman's service satisfied and pleased Lord Ram so much that he goes back to the spiritual world. One act of kindness and love towards the Lord. Then can you imagine if throughout your life you're thinking about the Lord and you're trying to serve the Lord as much as you can and as sincerely as you can, with as much devotion as you can you imagine what Lord Ram, Lord Krishna would be willing to do for you? You would have purchased him. So in spiritual life, Lord Krishna is not seeing how much you are giving. Krishna is seeing how much you're holding back. You know, if a crorepati drops 500 rupees in the hundi, Krishna knows how much he is holding back. Krishna is not calculating your devotion based on how much you give. Krishna is calculating of how much you've withheld from him. Krishna is very clever, very, very clever. He's thinking, Acha, you drop 500 rupees, is it? You can give me much more. So he's thinking, why you held back? You're afraid. You're going to lose it all. So devotee means no fear. No fear. We're completely under the shelter of Krishna. Fear comes when we don't have faith. You know? So Krishna is calculating, what are you holding back? So Krishna is saying, okay, you've given me this much, but can't you give more? Why are you holding back? So this is the mood of a pure devotee. See, only pure devotees go through this strenuous tests of their devotion. The Lord will test them again and again and again. And they will never give up. You and me, we don't have to worry. We are not pure devotees. We are too afraid to pray like Kunti and say, give me problems all the time. We would never do that. Never in our life would we ever think to tell the Lord, give me problems all the time. We will tell the Lord, don't give me problems, I will be your servant. That will be our calculation, because we are not pure devotees. A pure devotee is willing to give up anything and everything for the Lord. They don't care. Their only objective is, I want to please Krishna. I want to make sure Krishna is happy. So materially, we may see differences in services in the temple. Somebody may be sweeping the temple, somebody may be gardening, somebody may be doing garland seva, someone may be a pujari in the altar offering personal service to the Lord. Krishna does not distinguish between these services. We should not think our objective should be to get onto that altar and personally worship the Lord. Yes, it's a nice thing to do, to offer seva. But Krishna is looking at your heart. What is the mood with which you're doing your service? You can just be an ordinary sweeper, but if you're sweeping the Lord's house and thinking of the Lord and telling the Lord, my dear Lord, I'm sweeping to the best that I can. I'm trying to be perfect. I hope you're pleased with my service. Krishna prefers that than to a person who may be a little bit proud because he's on the altar and he's worshipping the Arjavigraha form of the Lord. Krishna is always looking at your heart. What is in your heart and how pure your heart is. Not externally showing off that you love him. You cannot fool Krishna. So you and I may see material differences. When we walk into a temple, we may think, even I want to do garland seva. Even I want to, iron the clothes of the Lord before it goes on top of the Lord. Even I want to make jewelry for the Lord. We may think that is the best way, that the closest we can get to the Lord. No. The purity with which you do your seva is what constitutes your love for God. Not the quantum or the level of importance of your service is not in consideration. Not for Krishna. Externally, other devotees may think, wow, he's doing great service. Even I want to do that. That is not Krishna's calculation. He is looking to see what is in your heart. What is your mood when you're serving him? Are you doing it diligently? Are you thinking about him? Are you doing it with faith? Are you doing it with love? Are you doing it with enthusiasm? These are all the qualities that he is looking for. So if you are sincere and you do your best, then you can attain perfection in this life, right? So this is the mode of Krishna. So then Krishna makes a very, very amazing statement. The last two shlokas. Krishna says, even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. This one shloka is a very important instruction for us on what we should not do. We should not find faults in other devotees. We should be very, very, very careful about this one instruction. Because if you criticize the Lord's devotee, then you are in big trouble with Krishna. He will push you away very promptly. So criticism of Vaishnavas who may be performing their sevas but may be doing it imperfectly, or in your eyes they may have committed an offense, you should overlook it. Krishna is saying, even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he's to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. Then Krishna says, he may be imperfect in the beginning, he may be doing some nonsense activities, but by continuing to serve me, what will happen? He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. What does that mean, my devotee never perishes? That Krishna personally intervenes and make sure that you're successful on this path of Bhakti Yoga. And you reach the abode of Krishna. Right? So externally, when we see a lot of things, our tendency is to be judgmental all the time. This devotee is like that devotee is like that, she is speaking harshly, and look at him, he's not doing his seva properly, he is distracted, this person is not a good preacher, they don't know how to hold audience attention, I am bored, I don't want to attend this person's class, they're not very interesting. We shouldn't do that. So what you should be looking for is the sincerity of the person that is offering the service, although they may be doing it imperfectly. And so finally, the essence of all of this is in the very last shloka. Again, it's a very famous shloka. We must remember it because these are the final instructions. Of course, these instructions will come again. Finally, Krishna says, what is it that we should do? Manmana bhava madbhakto madhya jimam namaskuru mam evaishyasi yuktvaivam atmanam matparayanaha. What is Krishna saying? Krishna is saying, engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me, and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So 4 instructions for us. Krishna says, always think of him. Second instruction, become my devotee. Exclusively, he says, become my devotee. Third instruction, offer your obeisances to me. Fourth instruction, worship me. By doing this, Krishna says, you will come back to me. Very simple instructions, my dear devotees. Not at all hard to follow. Always think of Krishna, become his devotee, offer your obeisances every day to Krishna, and worship him with love and with the mood of service. Doing this, Krishna says, you will ultimately come back to me. So we will pause here.